I wonder what kind of happens if you put a tree on top of an animal. Like, does it? Oh, it just boxes it.
Yeah.
Good morning, zookeepers, and welcome back to Planet Zoo. Today is going to be the start of a new project, and this is Mesa Park. Now, it's obviously built on a mesa, which is basically just a huge lump of rock in a sense. And yeah, I've already made it, built the forest around it, which took a fair while, and also I made the sky tram to get up onto it as well. So today, basically what I'm going to be starting to do is be making the entrance, or at least the foundations and the outsides of it. Eventually I'll come back to it, and then I'll do like the decoration of it. So I don't want this video to be massively long as well. We're going to make an enclosure for the birds tapir. Now I promise this will be an actual park, not like my tropical island one where it just became another my first builds, even though today's build will be a first time for me making an enclosure for that particular animal. But you can see right now in extremely fast view, I quickly put this structure together, and then eventually I'm going to come back to it, decorate the outside of it, and then probably going to do another enclosure and then decorate the inside. And you get the idea. I'm just going to keep bouncing back and forth, as well as I'll be making the tram station as well, try and make that an interesting looking building, or kind of like a warehouse kind of looking building. So I've not been to a sky tram building that's like massively intense and like decor, so I'm gonna go for that kind of like low-key vibe. Anyways, I put the foundations, I put the path all the way around the way I want this enclosure to be. It's going to be quite a large enclosure, even though I only plan to have 2 in here, because my idea is I want some larger enclosures where you have to look for the animal, give them loads of space to run around, even though they don't quite need that amount of space. But I want open larger enclosures, and then in the little gaps I can put small enclosures for smaller creatures and that kind of thing. As you see right now, what I'm doing is making the house for the tapirs. I'm going to make it nice and simple. I don't want to put too much into it, because obviously the guests ain't going inside of it. It's literally just a place for them to go and rest their heads and get any shelter, things like this really. With this enclosure, I want to keep it as nearly as simple as possible. I don't want anything too like elaborate with it. I just want to enjoy making it, enjoy watching the tapirs, the birds tapirs move around it, things like this. So I go for as simple as possible in a sense. What I'm going to be doing is, see right now on the path, I'm going to have this bark kind of like separator between this and the actual fence I'm going to be placing. And again, I want the fence to be simple, kind of nice, kind of fitting with that kind of jungle vibe. So I quite like the idea of having this sort of like rope fence all the way around, made with like logs and some bits of timber. Again, it's not fancy, they're only tapirs at the end of the day. They're not going to do serious harm, and again, the guests won't be stepping over that bark barrier anyways. And I probably might go around either this video or maybe in the next and do flowers all the way around it, kind of spruce it up a bit more between the bark and the fencing. But that's something that I've yet to decide if I'm going to do or not. As well, right now I'm going to be making the viewing areas. I was kind of deciding how I wanted them, and something you'll learn here when I was doing this particular bit was that knowing the height of your guests will help. In the end, what I build sort of works out quite well. You got the glass barrier for the kids to see through, and then the guests are kind of looking over the rope. But when I was making this, in my head I was like, oh, this is a really tall structure, like, is this going to look right? And that's because I play a lot of Jurassic World Evolution, so the guests, they, compared to what you're seeing here, are completely different. Like, the sizes of each game are different. Obviously the buildings are massive, the dinosaurs are massive to the guests, but the guests actually look really small and dainty. So when I was building this, in my head I had like the Jurassic World kind of specs, because I hadn't seen like a keeper or an engineer walk past in a while. So I completely forgot the size specs. So like I said, when I was building this, it looked really big. Now I was just faffing around the path here, as you can see, trying to get that right without completely deleting it. But yeah, so when I was building this, I was like, oh, that looks like a decent height. I've raised the logs higher and everything else. I was like, oh, that's pretty tall. And the way I was going for it, I quite like the fact the logs were kind of leaning a bit. because when I put the rope in at the top, it looks like it's sort of like all tied together. I can't remember the name of the structure, where you basically collapse it, and because the rope and the string or whatever you're using is up high, completely like pulls it in so it stays that shape. So I was kind of liking that kind of look. At the back I didn't bother doing glass, so I just raised these bits of timber up. I want to say railway sleepers because that's what they remind me of. So then the front bit has the glass, and then I used a smaller bit rather than having it go into the wood itself. Have a smaller bit, and then I bring these panels in up to it, and it has like a really nice rustic look to it, and I feel like it matches the kind of vibe of the enclosure, which I was really enjoying. When, you know, towards the end anyways, it kind of goes that kind of jungle sort of it's made with the stuff that was around it, so yeah, it has a nice feel. And you see what I mean with the rope at the top, it just cuts in quite nice. Now in my head, like I said, this looked like a tall structure. Like I thought like the top of the glass would be where the guest is, and then I was like, it certainly didn't seem right about it. So in the end, I don't know if I recorded it or not, I actually get my little archer out, which I should have got out in the first place, so I knew exactly how tall the structure was. Oh no, it wasn't the archer that gave it away. It's when I tried putting these screens down, that's what gave it away. I was like, why are these screens so big? And then I put my arch down, I was like, oh right, that's why the screens are so big. But don't mind, it works out. The glass is for the kids, and then the adults can still see over the ropes. So it works out in the end, and then I learned my lesson. I placed my archer down for this next one. I want to make it similar, but not too similar. I want to have a different vibe. I want to have it that kind of, it's been here a while, it's slightly sinking into the ground, which has made it misshapen a wee bit, so it's falling backwards kind of thing. And then I decided I don't want it to look too much like the other one as well, so I change it up so then it connects using ropes directly to the fence. And then I'm going to add a load of plants in the area where it looks like I can plant, probably loads of flowers and things like that. So I quite like the I like placing flowers in my parks. I like the bright, pretty colours. It makes the parks just look nice, and I do like a good garden anyways. But yeah, these are really nice, simple sort of like viewing gallery areas. Obviously they can see into the enclosure from the fence, but if they want a closer look, they can go into these little galleries that I've made. Only making 2, and then I've got a bridge across the water, which eventually I'll get back round to sort of fitting in. It took me a long time putting the fence all the way around. Like, even though I've made this a very simple build, I think it took me like nearly 2 hours to do. Kind of crazy when thinking about it. Like, that took, like, in my head I'm like, I'm making a nice, simple, easy build that I can relax, just have fun. I'm not being like pressuring myself into the finer details. I want to enjoy these birds taping and see them run around. And yeah, I couldn't believe how long it took me to make this enclosure. But yeah, this is me faffing around. I was trying to make a pipe, but I couldn't get the look I wanted. So in the end, I ended up using this air vent. So this is where I wanted it to look like water is like coming out of. So it's like a fake waterfall. It's got pumps underneath it. And then I try and make it so it kind of looked like it was coming out of one centre point, and then looking back at it now, it kind of looked pointless putting that air vent in there because you can't see it because of the water. But it's a nice little water feature. The tapir got out, and I was like, how'd it get out? I was like, oh yeah, it just jumped onto this path because I've got nothing stopping it from getting on there. Anyways, after I sort that waterfall area out so they're not escaping, I go around adding all the different enrichments, knocking around in different parts of the enclosure, because one of my favourite things to do is just watch them use the enrichments. Like, it's nice. It might not fit in completely with the vibe I'm going for, but it's just fun watching them like use the enrichment. It's like the best bit of the game for me is watching the animals. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, I enjoy making the enclosures. I love, it's a lot of fun. It's a good bit of like time to spend and enjoy, but the best bit is watching the animals. That's for me. Just watching the animals do their thing, messing around with the different enrichments, socialising with one another, and just sort of like knocking around. Something I never actually realised, when the tapir walk on the stone, they make a completely different sound. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. That's a fair bit of like attention to detail. Anyways, on the steeper bits, I had a lot of rocks, so it's sort of like it shows that it's quite steep, but then obviously it narrows out into this nice gentle area, pretty much where conveniently I placed that log. Uh, so yeah, it worked out quite nicely when I randomly placed that log. I was like, I'm going to place that here, try and remember it, and then I end up sticking it, like leaving it where I placed it. I was like, yeah, it actually looks nice, I'm going to leave it there rather than have it elsewhere. So what I'm doing now is just knocking around, adding different plants here and there. I don't want like a dense, heavy foliage area, because mainly because I don't want to lose my tapir, but I do want it to look nice and not completely barren and open. So I just sort of like here and there add a load of plants, and then just try and leave like some very sparse areas, large gaps where you'll be able to see the tapir walk through. Because I noticed some of my enclosures where I go overboard with like foliage, I'm like, I've been here like ages trying to find these creatures. But yeah, as well, I've had this little bridge across, which as I'm making it, the keeper uses it straight away. So I was like, oh, that's kind of handy. Sort of saves time for the keeper walking all the way around to get to the other side. They can just cut across that bridge, and the tapir use it as well. And it's just like a nice little feature, goes into that jungle kind of vibe, and it just fits in. But yeah, I was really happy with this enclosure. Like I said, I kept it as simple as possible because I wanted to be able to see my creatures and I wanted to have fun making it. I didn't want to be like lost in all the finer details. Like, you don't have to like go onto this game and think I need to make an absolutely beautiful thing. And as well, I got a baby tapir. Like, obviously this is a new park, I've messed around the settings, but I think I might keep it so I can still get babies. I just need to remember to turn it off. I think it's giving them contraceptive so they're not constantly spitting out babies, because one of my like ones where I just sort of like messed around the experience, I came back onto it and like one enclosure had like 50 antelope in because they just kept breeding and breeding and breeding, which obviously I don't want. So I just need to remember to put the contraceptive in there, so then eventually every now and then I can enjoy seeing a little baby creature, because it's something in my head I've almost forgot was in the game because I have it turned off on the other two maps that I build enclosures on. But yeah, overall I'm really happy with this enclosure. I enjoyed making it. It looks kind of lush and it's a nice first addition to this park. And the best thing about this, if I want to, I can always come back to it. I can always make it a finer detailed enclosure, but for now it's just a nice little start to our little new series. But anyways, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope it's given you a little inspiration for your builds. And as always, thank you for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.